and had almost no wisdom.
So years ago, I used to have a radio show in Glendale with Salem Radio called Saving America. And I would go into the building, and there was always this man they would talk about, Dennis Prager, that we all in LA had heard for many, many years. And you had your own show on the other side. I have my small little show here getting started. And now from there, I mean, if you go online and you type in Prager University, it's one of the fastest growing YouTube channels all over the world. They're getting 2,500 to 4,000 subscribers per day. And the message is specifically around capitalism. So today, we're going to talk a little bit of capitalism with the one and only Dennis Prager.
Great to be with you.
Good to be with you. Thank you for welcoming us in your house.
By the way, let me explain.
Yes.
Since it's my house, so we got the dog didn't want to move and the cigar didn't want to move. So that's why they're both there.
That makes a lot of sense.
Just one. And
No, that makes a lot of
dog.
sense.
The dogs.
3 of them. Now, Snoopy went in the other room, so we're going to have to, until Snoopy decides to come in here. So, Dennis, today I would like to talk about 3 different items, okay? One of them will be how we form our opinions. Another one will be capitalism. And then one of them will, if we got time, we'll get into Hitchens. I know you spent some time with Hitchens, and to me, he's one of the most fascinating characters out there. And I'd be curious to know what your take will be on that. I grew up in a family where my mother's side, they all believed in communism. And my dad's side, they believed in imperialism. And I grew up completely confused. So on one side, they believed rich people were greedy.
I'm still not entirely sure what Quake does.
On the other side, they believed poor people were lazy. And I'm right in the middle. So it was the greatest debate of my life was mom and dad debating. So
how was their
I know what
marriage
Thunder does.
otherwise?
I know what
Well,
Firestorm
they got a
does.
divorce twice.
I know what Shield does.
They got a divorce.
I haven't
three
used
now,
that yet.
including
I
20
don't know
years
what it does.
into it. Yeah, that,
People should marry people with whom they share values.
you know, it's amazing. I got into a conversation with one of my friends, and he said, common faith is more important than common political beliefs. And I said, I think economical beliefs is more important than...
It's an odd statement, because what if faith translates itself into real life, or it's pointless? If your religion, I'm a deeply religious man. I have been teaching the first 5 books of the Bible for 40 years. And the fruit of it is the first volume, the book of Exodus, the second book. My commentary and explanation is just...
This isn't a religious podcast.
Called the Rational Bible. So that gives you an idea of how hard I work.
It's about a guy who started a university in America.
What I wanted to say to you is,
He's an ex-talk show host.
Religion has to have values. It can't just be I believe in God, or I believe in Jesus, or I believe in the Torah, or I believe in the Quran. It's got... So therefore what? My next question is, see, if I know somebody believes in something, I still don't know anything about their values. I only know that they believe. So my point is, people should marry with common values. That's the most important, even more than common faith. Because you can have people of 2 different religions who have the same values, and people of the exact same religion who agree on nothing.
I'm 100% with you.
Right, that's all I want to say.
So now let's go to the first topic, since you're going into that. So years ago, we were at Wayne Hughes' house, the son of, I believe, Public Storage. At that time, I think he was a $3.8 billion guy. And we were in Malibu. And you were up there speaking, and you said the most interesting thing. I was sitting right in the front, and you said the difference between liberals and conservatives. You said 5 different things. They're trying to make good and evil be the same, men and women be the same, animal and human beings. All the
you
stuff
remember
you were
that? That's impressive.
I vividly remember that. So you said that, and I'm sitting there saying, I'm going back and I'm doing research. I'm like, what is this? What is he talking about? Because right around that time, my political beliefs as a capitalist was majorly influenced by George Will back in March of '09.
Right.
And you know George Will. And so from there, I got into the
He's
Reagan.
made a PragerU video, a few of them.
Yes, he has. That's right. Yes, he has. And so let's go to that. Dennis, you obviously, you look at this room, you got so many books in here. This could be a local library in La Cañada, and people could come and sign out books and start a small side business.
They could.
To fund the YouTube channel. But, if you go back and we look at Dennis at 14 years old, 16 years old, 18 years old, 25 years old, 35 years old, 45 years old, if we look at Dennis, how did Dennis Prager form his opinions to where you are today, and who influenced it?
This will sound boring, except for one item. I have the exact same value system as in high school. And in high school, I wrote, and I still have the diary, the physical diary. I wish I kept the diary the rest of my life, but I didn't. I know what I want to do with my life. I want to influence people to the good. That's all I've ever been interested in. There's so much cruelty and evil on earth, and I want people to be good. But I know that we don't start out good. Human nature isn't good. It's not evil, but it's not good. So how do you make people good, or even just better? That's been my life's work. The one area that I have changed was done by Ronald Reagan. When Ronald Reagan said, government is not the solution, it's the problem. And I realized, oh my God, is that true? Oh. Now, nobody denies government has to do some good. It has to put out your fires. It has to hire police. It has to have armed forces. There has to be some degree of regulation. We all acknowledge that. But why would anybody trust a lot of power in people's hands? The United States was founded, and only the United States, on the belief that limited government is a moral value. Without limited government, America is just like every other place. Every other. Number two, having been preoccupied with evil, I realized Reagan's comment was right in another way. All the genocides of the 20th century, and there were more genocides in the 20th century than all centuries before that put together, all of them were caused by big government. And nobody talks about that. People say all the time, oh, religion has killed, people have killed more people in the name of God. People have killed more people in the name of secular government than in all the religions. Forget it. There's no comparison. Communism and Nazism killed more people than Christianity by a factor, and I'm not Christian, I'm Jewish, by a factor of 1,000. The whole Spanish Inquisition killed about 6,000 people in 300 years. And it was an evil thing, but 6,000 in 300 years?
Versus 20 million?
Versus 20 million, that's the minimum figure for Stalin. 60 million is the minimal figure for Mao. A third of the Cambodians, 4 million Ukrainians by Stalin.
It's pretty sick.
In the early 30s, in the forced famine, he simply took people's food away. And it goes on. And of course, the Nazis and the 6 million Jews. So all of them were secular governments. So we'll put the secular
Can't argue with
aside.
that.
That's just to answer the challenge against religion. But it's critical to note that it's big government. You can't slaughter a lot of people without big government. With one exception, the Hutus and Tutsis. That was the one exception.
But let's go back to the question. There's a part of it that I have a hard time believing. You said there's only one thing that for you wanted to do good, and you wanted to make people better,
right, yes,
to become better.
Right.
Fair enough,
right.
But you weren't born this way.
I was.
There's no way. So you're telling me
that is my nature, but it is also, you're 100%
no,
right.
I'm not saying
it's
that.
50%
well,
environment.
Look, you also made a video that you said you believe kids are born bad, and we have to make them good.
I never said that. Yeah.
Basically, we have to make, like, you don't teach a kid manners, respect,
you're 100%
say please, say all this stuff.
It is 50% environment. I was raised with a great value system.
That's what I want to know. So who was that? Maybe your parents?
Well, my parents definitely were a factor. There's no question. They talked about ethics a great deal. But I was raised in a religious home, went to religious school, and I took the stuff seriously. When it says, love your neighbor as yourself, I am God, and nobody adds the I am God, they don't remember it's even in the sentence. It's God who says, love your neighbor as yourself, not man, not Moses. It's God, ultimately. And in other words, so God wants me to be good. I'll give you an example. I believe the 10 Commandments are from God.
But when you're a baby, you don't have any. You're just a clean slate. You're like nothing. You've got no morals. You're just trying to eat
when I was younger.
and do whatever the parents
But
tell you
I
to do.
never, ever disrespected my parents. I never ignored them. The moment I left their house at the age of 20 or 21, from then till the day they died at 96 and 90 respectively, I called them every week of my life, anywhere I was on earth. I honored my parents because I believe God commanded honor your parents. People who think we can have a great world without God are naive.
Okay, again, let's go back to that. So here's my question for you now. I'm curious. Because what I'm trying to solve, what I'm trying to figure out is the following. And maybe I'm curious to know where you're gonna go with this. Dennis Prager is born in a family where his mom and dad are Hillary Clinton.
That's like saying that people,
If
human
you
beings,
but you're
are
born in
terrible
that family,
creatures
would
unless
Dennis today be
they
a
believe
very strong
in a God.
liberal and promoting
I don't know if I
promoting
agree
on
with that.
MSNBC with Rachel Maddow?
I think human beings,
Or would you
can be
still
good
be
even
Dennis
with
Prager
or without
today
religion.
saying, I'm going to be this conservative, libertarian, Republican, whatever maybe, and I'm going to drive these initiatives.
It would be the latter, and I know why.
Really?
Yes.
You
There's-
really believe that?
there's no doubt in my mind, and I'll tell you why. I believe in what I believe because it's moral and because it's common sense. If liberalism or leftism made common sense, then I would be a liberal or a leftist, and they're not the same, by the way. I spent a great deal of time explaining to liberals that they should fear and fight the left just as much as the right does. And Alan Dershowitz agreed. Alan Dershowitz, prominent Harvard professor of law, said to me on film just a few weeks ago in his home, I am a liberal and the left is my enemy much more than the right.
Very
Crazy.
crazy to say that.
Very few, because they don't have the guts to say it.
But so
Liberals are not leftists, but they're not courageous.
But Dennis, this is what I want to challenge you on, and this is what I struggle with. Again, so I sit there. I have a lot of friends on the left, friends on the right, friends
Yeah.
in the middle, and friends who could.
Not
give a shit
everybody,
about politics.
regardless if you're on the left or right, or think the same way.
And
Doesn't matter if you're
I
left
sit
or
down
right.
and I
Every
see
single
guys that are
individual
Democrats,
has a
and I see
different
this
set of
guy
opinions
is
and
very
morals.
smart.
Doesn't matter if you're left
And
or
I look at
right.
this guy and I say, oh, this guy is very smart.
Doesn't matter if you're religious or
And
not.
this
You can be a
is very
Satanist
smart.
and be a nice guy.
So there's a lot of smart, good people on all spectrum, right? And then I dig a little deeper. And then here's what I figure out when I dig a little deeper. So I have a friend who's African American. And I say,
I've known skinheads which have been nice people.
Who was the person
I don't
that
agree with what they do, but
And then, he said, well...
And there's
I
horrible
read,
people as well.
Some of Solinsky, and I read some of, Karl Marx, and my professor was a big fan of, all these other guys, and Vidal Gore, and all these things I read. I said, okay, girl, let me ask you a question. What if Thomas Sowell got a hold of you? Oh, Thomas Sowell, I would never follow Thomas Sowell. I said, well, what if Thomas Sowell got a
people are
hold
just
of you
delusional.
at a young age? Would you have been different? You didn't grow up with a father figure, so what if Thomas had a hold of you at 14? And by the way, this guy's got a PhD. He's a brilliant, he's a professor, principal, smart guy. And he sits there after a while, he says, Pat, honestly, I probably would have been on the other side. So the part I'm trying to get to with this battle that there is going on, right? The part I'm trying to get to with the battle that's going on is, we have people that grow up and they say, I want to be anything than whatever my dad was. My dad was Ronald Reagan, but he wasn't around. He was always on the road. I'm Ronnie Reagan. I'm going to be a liberal. Okay? Hey, my father was a Democrat, and I'm going to be complete opposite. My ex-husband was this. We broke it up. It didn't work out. I'm going to be the complete opposite. So how much of that, the part I'm trying to figure out with you is you said 50-50 was my environment, but you're saying no matter what, even if it wasn't that, you're still going to have the same belief system. How would that have happened? If I'm born in your family, the books I have here are the books, and your influence is going to be mainly on one side.
Right. But it's not because it's one side. If what you're saying is true, then it's pointless to try to influence people morally or politically or socially or economically. If they are what they are because of environment and genes, then that's the end. But I believe that humans have free will. I believe that a certain percentage of humanity, hearing a good idea, will then challenge themselves. That's why I know. Look, we had 600 million views at PragerU last year. Vast numbers, and 65% of them are under 35 years of age.
Fascinating.
It's a big deal. The number of them who say, wow, I never heard that before, that made me think, is very large. There are people who will hear 2 and 2 is 4, but they are emotionally committed to 2 and 2 is 5. I can't change their mind.
But if you're saying that, then what your theory says that one day we can have 90% of the world be on the right.
That's correct. That is correct.
You really believe that?
Yeah.
How?
Because I believe in the human ability to think rationally. However, I fully admit that the world composed today, where so much irrationality dominates. You said you had friends on the left who are very smart, and you said something else, very well educated. I think those were the 2 things. Right. But you didn't say the key word. Smart means nothing. Educated means nothing. Wise is everything. There's no wisdom on the left.
So define wise. Wise is what? Wise is life experience.
Wise is partially life experience. Wise is
looking
at life and making rational, wise conclusions. For example, it is wiser for a woman in her 20s to look for a husband than to just chase a career. That's wisdom. That's not economics. It's partially economics. Because if you care about human happiness, I have no issue. Woman wants a career, God bless her.
Oh no,
I married a lawyer. If a woman wants a career, it's a non-issue to me. But from the point of view of wisdom, since good men don't grow on trees, good careers do. Because you work hard, you'll have a good career. That's the way it works. But to find a good man is easier at 25 than at 45. And I don't know this for some women.
There's a time limit.
From the thousands of women who have called my radio show in the course of 35 years of doing radio.
But Dennis, you say something like that. So I know Democrats that have been married for 45 years and Republicans that have not. So does that mean the Democrat is wiser than the Republican?
The name of the dwarf village.
I'm talking about what they advocate.
Lily pad.
No. I thought advocacy.
No, this isn't too bad.
You know what I tell all my liberal Jewish relatives?
What's that?
Preach what you practice.
No,
they live conservative lives and they preach liberal lives. So when you say the tragedy of black life is lack of fathers, they say, oh, racism. But they all give their kids fathers. The people give their kids fathers.
What's the first type of
black kids to have fathers?
Magic you acquired?
So here's what I'm not talking about. So I'm not talking about, so for instance, today we're having a conversation, okay? Paul, Mario, and I were having a conversation before we went with Curtis Stone. Curtis Stone is the celebrity chef. He was on Celebrity Apprentice. He's got all these big restaurants in Beverly Hills and LA. So we're at lunch. We're having a debate over gay and being straight, okay? And how does that come about? I'm not going to get into the details of where this conversation led to, but we're having a conversation over lunch. And I like to kind of process issues like this. So it finally got to the point where Paul made a comment, and then I said, this is where I no longer debate. Because if this is what you're going to agree on, I'm not debating anymore. We change the subject. I'm not talking about talking to people that they have to be right at all costs. Yeah, I can't do nothing about those guys, right? I can't sit there having a serious conversation because you have to be right. I'm talking about somebody that says, you know what, Dennis? So I'm in a car, I'm driving, I got 2 guys sitting behind me. This is when Barack Obama is about to pass Obamacare, okay? So the wife voted for Barack and the husband voted for Barack, and they both believe we need to have Obamacare. I'm not saying anything about it. I haven't even brought it up. I said, hey guys, I got a question for you. They said, what's that? I said, I got this family I'm dealing with, and this family makes $35,000 per year. And they said, oh wow, that's great. And they're thinking about coming up with this additional thing for the family that's going to cost them roughly $20,000 a year.
I don't get these chests.
And they're going to go into that. They don't have the money. But everybody in the family has agreed that they should, because maybe they should do it. What do you think about it? I asked the wife. She says, oh, that's a terrible idea. They should never do that. Why would you go into that not having the money? And I said, you know what, I agree with you. I said, then what do you think about it as the husband? And he says, terrible idea. That's not how you handle your finances. I said, by the way, let me tell you how I'm breaking down the math. Our GDP is $3.5 trillion, and this Obamacare is going to cost $1 trillion to $2 trillion. Why the hell are we coming up with a program we don't have the money for while we're in debt $16 trillion at the time? Then they said, shit, this makes sense.
Okay, so you're making my point.
So,
Yeah, but, you know, not everyone can afford healthcare, and should they just be homeless and be sick?
I also believe the Socrates point of the moment you think you know everything, you don't know anything, because there's a part of it that I think it's healthy to have a little bit of doubt. Didn't you have a debate with Hitchens one time, and you asked him a very interesting question? You asked him, you said, hey, Chris, you know, myself and Dinesh, you know, we, even though we are strong in our belief, we sometimes doubt.
Right.
And he said, you asked him a brilliant question. You said, do you ever doubt that, you know, your atheism, non-existence of God is wrong? And he said the answer that you knew he was going to say. He answered the answer that you knew he was going to say. He says, no, I tried, but no, not at all. He says, now you can tell to the audience that there's a little bit of level of arrogance here versus us. We're not. We're doubting a little bit. And he does. I think the challenge why on the right, I had this conversation with Charlie Kirk as well. I said, I think the challenge with the right sometimes is the fact that there is a level of, I am right no matter what. That,
no.
And you may disagree with me.
Dennis,
I
not
want
right
some
no
help.
matter what. Certain ideas are right no matter what. I don't care whether I'm right. I care whether I know what is right. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
My ego is not attached to my opinions. Zero. I am prepared to change my mind in a nanosecond, given I was for minimum wage. I was. Then I saw the data. Whatever it was. I don't remember. When I was for it, it was,
okay.
You know, I don't
see.
remember.
You're not talking about recently. Okay. Yeah.
I was for minimum wage when the New York Times was against it. The New York Times editorialized the right minimum wage is $0.00. But the New York Times has shifted from liberal to left. Now it would never agree with that. People should look that up. I and many others have written about.
It's a tough topic.
When they advocated, they had an editorial, the right minimum wage, $0.00. More people are unemployed. You don't give an opening work for people who need work habits at a very early time in their life. Nobody lives on minimum wage the rest of their life. If they do, there's something wrong with their work ethic. They should rise. You should become a manager at a McDonald's after a certain number of years. You shouldn't be getting minimum
There's only
wage.
one manager, though. You can't have
I finally
10.
realized,
Like if 10 people work at McDonald's their whole lives,
out of business.
There's only one manager.
At such a small margin of
Not everyone can become a
Who's gonna
manager
hire all of
because
these
you can't have
people?
10 managers.
But the left doesn't care because they consider it a victory to have the government give more and more money to people. They think that it's a moral and beautiful thing to do. And I think, except in the cases of where people literally cannot work, it is ruining their character and their life. So I changed my mind on it because of the evidence.
Are there a lot more things that can be changed with your mind today?
Yes, anything.
Okay.
You provide me better evidence, and I'll change my mind.
So-
I'm for capital punishment. If you convince me that we are executing innocent people,
Yep.
then we have to do a moratorium.
So fair enough. So this is so fair. And by the way, you know, one thing, about me, I was a registered Democrat. I voted Clinton, and I voted right, and then I went in the middle, and I'm independent, libertarian.
I voted
And
for Jimmy Carter.
You voted for Jimmy Carter,
Yes,
yeah.
then I stopped being a
That's why I'm in America. I mean, if there was no Jimmy Carter, I'd still be in Iran. I wouldn't be in America if there wasn't for Jimmy Carter. I'd probably still be in Iran, living there, doing something else with the Shah.
Yeah, but you would be doing well. It would be a much freer country.
to be in Iran, then
The Iran under the Shah
Of course it would
was
be a much-
infinitely morally superior.
No
Forget
doubt.
economically and socially
yeah,
and politically.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. His son and I had a conversation about it in D.C. the day I was with Ted Cruz. So, okay, fair enough. So let's finalize this topic here. This is my processing, and I really want to know your answer. Like, honestly, I sincerely want to know your answer on this, and I'm not trying to get one answer or another side. You having met so many different people on both sides, Chris Matthews is not stupid. Okay, Rachel Maddow's not dumb. Elizabeth Warren is not dumb. Now, they may be a little bit sensational.
There are very few dumb people.
That's the point. That
dumb doesn't mean anything. Educated doesn't mean smart doesn't mean. The number of smart people who supported communism is in the millions.
But fair enough, they go to the left, and if you talk about values and principles and all of that, there's a lot on the left.
There's no wisdom on the left. There are a lot of...
You can't say that.
I can say that.
You seriously think there's no wisdom on the left?
I don't say it. I know it. I lived it. I went to Columbia. My professors were brilliant and had almost no wisdom. They taught me that men and women are basically the same. You can be brilliant and believe that, but you can't be wise and believe that. The difference between men and women is huge.
So you're saying the left is smart, the right is wise?
Yes.
You're really saying that?
Yes, that's exact. No, not the people, the ideas. That's correct. Wisdom is, there are wise liberals too, but there is no wisdom on the left. The left is a nihilistic, destructive force in every society it has touched. It has ruined our universities. It has ruined our arts. It has ruined our high schools. Everything, it's ruining football.
I'm not debating that part.
Whatever the left touches, it ruins.
Okay, so let's do this, just so we are clear.
Is it the left, though, or is it just ideologies of people that are on the left?
Because you said there's a difference. After example.
Please. What is that? Simplify. Simplify in a way where sixth grader can understand.
No, I do, by the way.
Right, certain groups of people on the left.
It's our obligation.
I don't think everybody on one group or one side is exactly the same. That's really general. That's generalizing everybody. Like, just because you're a homosexual, for example, doesn't mean you're exactly the same as every homosexual on the planet.
And skin color is nothing. The left believes that character is much less significant than skin color. The left believes in segregation racially. Liberals believe in integration racially. A liberal is opposed to a black dorm. A liberal is opposed to a black graduation at Harvard. A leftist is for it. They have nothing in common. The only thing that the left and liberals have in common, they have two things: belief in big government and hatred of the right. That is the only thing that leftism and liberalism have in common.
Okay, so tell me who's the left.
It's so general.
People know name.
Fine, I gave you Alan Dershowitz. He's a
That's like black and white. There's no grey area there.
Professor
it's
just like
who voted for Obama?
The left is this way or that way. That's it. They don't have any personality. There's no different opinions. Just this.
Which people don't know.
Black or white.
Publicly, there are very few public liberals today. This is a tragedy. Publicly, the Democratic Party, which was once liberal, is now left. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, these are names that will not be known to most of your viewers. Senator from New York, major intellectual, Democrat. He was the man who alerted the country to the crisis of the absence of the black father. And what was he called by the left? A racist. But you could say it as a Democrat and still be elected senator from New York.
I'm a centrist. I'm not left or right.
Who said that the biggest problem in black life is not racism, it is absence of fathers, could not be elected dog catcher in New York.
And who would you say as a left? You'd say Maddow, everybody else, Cooper, they're all left.
Yes.
So would you put, let me ask you, would you put progressive philosophies in the left, or could progressive be left and liberal?
Progressive is a larger term for both liberals and leftists, so I'm not using it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then that kind of redefines when I use the word left on where your frustration comes with that, because left may be based on...
Ask a liberal, do you think it's a good thing, moral thing, a liberal thing to have a black dorm? Ask them that. If they say yes, then I say, then you are a leftist, because liberalism was opposed to racially based dormitories.
You always have strong views on things, and that's what.
I always have strong views on things I have strong views on. I know my lacunae, my lapses, and my gaps.
So what this return does.
I just don't have. I don't talk about it.
So then
on this, I have strong.
Takes you back to the end.
You said something. You
said
race
means nothing.
Sweet, all right.
Human beings are human beings. I'm a religious man. We are created in God's image. God is not white or black or yellow or red. God is none. Is not color. Therefore, if we're in the image of God, color means nothing.
I'm not. Okay, fair enough. So let's go back to it, though. Let's put Dennis Prager in a complete different side. We're not talking Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager was born with these views. Dennis Prager was born with the way you feel about doing better, all that stuff, and you have politically be in the same place except for what Reagan told you about limited government, the reason for all this stuff with limited government. Fair enough.
Right.
Let's put Prager on this side. Let's put Prager on this side. How about the guy that grew up a Democrat and shit? How about the guy that grew up a Republican and shit? How about the guy that grew up not caring about politics that shit? How about the guy that grew up a pro-gun and then accidentally
they probably started a business or something,
and somebody killed his 3-year-old daughter and
having no minimum wage.
Have a gun in the house and he becomes
it's good for a business owner.
All that stuff. How about some of those things? So
you can pay them whatever you want.
Get to is the following. How do people, not Dennis Prager, how do people generally, because I think this is the issue, because if we don't address this issue, we don't know what audience to go to be able to help them process issues on how we form our political beliefs. So asking you, Dennis, from your experience,
I can't use the pygmy stuff,
you debated
and I don't know why.
Frank Pastore on Christianity against Judaism.
Got a pygmy sword, can't use it.
Israel. You've done it on the most wildest place or most incredible
platform. I've got a pygmy shield, I can't use it.
You've debated every topic that has to do with politics.
Pygmy armor.
How do people form their political opinions?
On passion. When they do it on reason and morality, we'll win them over. I'm a lover of reason. Reason is not enough, but it's absolutely indispensable. We are living in a day of pure passion.
How do I get the top of the phone?
It's just passion. No more guns, no more guns. Well, what happened when the government said no more drugs? Did it increase or decrease the number of addicts and the number of killings by people for drugs? So the same people who want more laws with regard to guns want fewer laws with regard to drugs. Why will it work on guns but not on drugs? They don't think rationally. It's passion, because we all hate seeing kids killed.
Interesting. So passion, reason. Fair
passion,
enough.
It is.
Okay, that's great. I mean, honestly, I kind of wanted to hear your perspective on that. For me, I sometimes go through the fact that you have people that somebody had an influence in their lives early on. Maybe they didn't have a father figure, but a professor did. You have people that are tradition-based.
I'll show that bow and arrow.
I grew up traditionally black, so I vote Democrat. Most Armenians are Democrats. My father was in the military, so I'm a Republican. I am
You're
such
right.
and such.
I think most people do it out of habit.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy.
And then there are some people that are purely stubborn. You can't convince them.
That's
you can't
correct.
pass
I
anything
agree.
to them.
All right. Yep. But I'm telling you, I really believe that otherwise I wouldn't do all the work of my life. I'm trying to influence people through reason and morality. And it's very effective, but it's not effective on everybody. I admit that.
That's why when you said 90% will eventually be, how do we get 90%?
No. If they were governed by reason. But people
are emotional beings.
That's correct. I know. So you know what? All of life is a battle between the brain and the mind.
I got something for you to think about. I had a girl that came into my office, and we were one night. It was one of my new executives' girlfriend at the time. Okay. And she always wanted to debate politics with me. So she came into the office one day and she said, I think it's this. I think all you care about is capitalism and money and entrepreneurship and millionaires and greed and all this other stuff. Then I asked her a question. I'm curious to know what you're going to say. I don't even have this thought just came to my mind right now. I said, over the years, every time I debate politics with somebody, after I find out which way they lean politically, I ask them the following question. And it's interesting because I want to know if there's a linkage behind it. I said, when you were in high school, did you like math or did you like English or journalism or, art? And you have no idea how often when people say math, that's reason, they eventually end up believing in capitalism. When they say art and creativity, they go to passion, emotion, which is the left. How much you think that side on how we're wired tilts to?
Yeah. But everybody is wired to think emotionally. That's some more than others, but everybody is. As I said, life is a battle between the mind and the brain. The brain says, I want cheesecake. The mind says, you're already overweight, don't eat it. Most of the time, the brain wins. The brain is the animal.
Brain wins because it's right?
No, the brain wins because it's so powerful. The urge to have cheesecake is greater than the rational calculation that I'll never lose weight if I keep eating cheesecake.
Are you saying that because you want some cheesecake right now? Or?
No, I actually haven't had dessert in 6 months, and it's not easy, but it's easier after 6 months than it was after 2 months. But yes, I'm talking from experience.
What am I missing?
Any experience, but it's true for anything.
How do I get
in
there?
The number. Why do they say that college is a rape culture? I don't believe college is a rape culture, but so many women have sex that they later regret having had, even though they had it voluntarily. But what they did was they didn't use their mind. For most women, sex is more of a emotional issue, or can be more, than for men. Men can have sex and do have sex with just about anything, not to mention themselves, and they want the male is sexually phenomenally different from the female. But the fools who taught me and who taught now a whole generation in high school and college have told young women, you are the same as a man sexually. They can have sex without any commitment, so can you. So they bought this nonsense, so they have hookups, and the depression rate among young women at college is extremely high.
I mean, Tinder
because women want relationships, mostly.
And availability today with technology.
Long term.
If people want Tinder, they should have Tinder.
So they're going against the grain of
I'm only giving
their
a
DNA.
prescription if you want to be a happier human
makeup.
being. If you want to be a happier human being and you're a female, then you should think a few times before having an immediate hookup.
Did you listen
This is not a moral message. This is a purely rational message.
Did we listen to our parents at 18, 19 years old? I mean, I don't know about you, but, it was a phase that I went through. I don't know if you went through.
You're right. People, yes, I went through. Yes, I agree with you. But women pay a bigger price for hookups than men do.
Yeah.
But you can't say that at a college. You say fair enough because you know it's true. You can't say all these truths at a college because they're, quote, politically incorrect, which means offensive to the left, which wants to believe that men and women are the same.
Okay, let's transition to the next topic.
How do I get to the top of this pyramid?
Okay. By the way, have you ever watched Chris Hitchens debate his brother? That whole
No.
Oh my God!
I debated Chris Hitchens, but I never saw him debate.
His brother. First of all, his brother doesn't have a strong personality like him and the dynamic, witty side to kind of. So it's not kind of fair.
So what does this do?
It's like trying to play basketball against LeBron James. He jumps 40 inches and you jump 10. Even though you may be a better dribbler, he's going to kick your ass. And
right. I'm not a better dribbler, and I can't jump 10 inches. But go ahead.
That's right. So what makes you believe, and I have my own beliefs on this, and I'm firm on it, but what makes you believe that the argument against atheists, I'm not even saying Christianity, Mormonism, Judaism, Muslim, Scientology, I'm not even going there. I'm just saying there is a God, there is no God. What's the simplest thing for you for all these years that you debated? If you were to say 1, 2, 3, or even more, what's the simplest thing for you to say? I know there is a God.
I don't know there is a God. I'm pretty certain, but I don't know. I know you're sitting there. I know this is a cigar because I can empirically prove it. I cannot empirically prove God, but I am one notch below empirical proof certain that there is a God who created the world, because the design is so unique. The number of factors that had to come together to produce life, let alone intelligent life, is so beyond the probabilities in the short 13 billion years or whatever it is that the universe has existed, that it can only be explained rationally by a creator, by a designer. To which, by the way, current atheists know that that's true. So it's a very interesting thing they're doing. They are so aware about the improbability of life without a designer, without a creator, the improbability of intelligent life without a designer or creator. So now they have a new argument. This isn't the only universe. But there isn't a shred of evidence for any other universe existing, nor can we ever know it. That is, it's a complete, total leap of faith. There are other universes in which I'm interviewing you. It's an infinite number of universes, and everything that can happen happens. So in one universe I'm a turtle, and in another universe I'm a pebble, and another universe I'm not, and so on. But that's nonsense. I asked Charles Krauthammer, who is he is brilliant and wise, and an agnostic. He's not an atheist. I asked him, what do you think of atheism? I had no idea what he'd say. He said, there are a lot of dumb ideas out there, but that's the dumbest.
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with that.
Very interesting views he has. Even in the
because you don't know what's out there. Just saying there's nothing out there and there's
transition into capitalism. Okay, so you got capitalism, you got socialism, you got communism. Okay,
the Dragon
you
Village.
Got a bunch of other things in there that people want: Marxism, thisism, all this other isms that are out there. Let's just take the three: capitalism, socialism, communism. Communism, we're not even going to debate because let's just set aside communism out there on the other side. It doesn't have a good track record. Okay, I think there's only a couple things from Karl Marx books that I read that I sit down and say, these 2 points, I can actually buy it that Karl Marx makes, fair enough. Everything else, I just can't buy into. Anything he's saying mathematically doesn't make sense to me. So question for you. You got capitalism, you got socialism. What's the difference? You know, if you were to simplify it, what is the difference between capitalism and socialism? And does America today, is it truly a capitalistic system that we have in America today?
We have a mixed economy. Well, every democracy is a mixed economy, where there's socialism and there's capitalism. But here is the most important question, since again, I think morally and rationally. I ask one question: what has lifted people out of poverty? Poverty is the human norm. There's been very little affluence in human history. There is a great deal of affluence today. By affluence, I mean able to have a roof over your head, pay your bills, have a car.
Not if there's no minimum wage.
Not
if there's no minimum wage and everyone's not on a minimum wage. They're on like $1 a day.
In reality,
then there'd be a very small amount of people with stuff.
Has it because capitalism has lifted billions out of poverty. Socialism spends the money that capitalism creates.
Oh, so are you
Socialism never creates wealth. Only capitalism creates wealth. Socialism is a way of spending the money that is created by capitalism.
Okay, so at what percentage is it just capitalism? I don't think there's a nation that's 100% capitalism. Is it fair to say that?
Of course, because I said earlier,
right, because it's a mixture of
regulations.
So what is the number, in your opinion? I've done some research on what the number is.
I have a number for the Laffer curve. You know, at what point in taxation do revenues actually drop? I don't know what the number is because you can't make a number. This percent is capitalist, this percent is socialist. But the more private enterprise, the more free market, the more people are free. I'll give even medicine. This is not well known, and it should be. There is a branch of medicine that is not covered by insurance, so people have to pay cash. They're not insured. It has become one of the most lucrative areas of medicine, and the prices keep falling, and that is cosmetic surgery. The surgeons are making a lot of money, and the people are paying less, all because it's completely free. Insurance doesn't pay for a nose job. Insurance doesn't pay for a breast implant. This is all cosmetic.
Are you saying they should pay for breast implants?
No, not in the least. They shouldn't pay for almost anything. There should be insurance just the way there is in cars. Nobody is insured for a lube, an oil change. You are insured if you want to pay less for your insurance. You're only insured for a serious crash. That's what we should do for health insurance. You get cancer and you need chemotherapy, I need insurance. That's too expensive. Beyond that, it should be cash.
So let's go back to the
What if you can't afford it, though?
The question is, I'm going to ask you, just Dennis, let's not...
Because if there's no minimum wage, so people can get paid $2 a day, if employers decided to do that, if you work at McDonald's, you would have no money
But that's
for
what
health
I wanna know.
insurance.
Okay, no, you asked. I thought you were asking.
You wouldn't be able to afford
what
it.
percentage should be socialist, what percentage should be capitalist in a society.
Okay, so if you have
that's
that-
a different question. I didn't have an answer because we can't measure exactly what's socialist, what's capitalist. But that can be measured.
Do you have you from
I
speaking
don't know
all these other?
what is the answer, but I do believe that is more or less measurable. At what point people people's ambition to work is shattered by taxation.
So I mean, you said California's number 1 right now in
That's
America.
correct.
New York's number 8.
That's
by the way.
right.
I was surprised. New York was number 8. California's
I can tell
13.3.
you in my own life, given that that I am in a category, and my wife, who really knows economics, is present. What is the category of our tax rate now? Is it over 50 with state tax? Okay, between 50 and 55. So I'll tell you how I do a lot of speaking, and I'm paid for my speeches. I give some for free because it's the right thing to do. But putting that aside, I raised my prices.
Danger, the
because
desert
of
lies ahead. So
That's the only reason.
is that the Mormon
the
desert
fee
down there?
Because if I get X amount for a speech, so I have to travel.
Oh, we can
across
always
the
reload it.
country to
Let's
give
see what
a
happens.
speech. I have to do my
Whoa.
radio show, so I'm gone for 3 days for one speech. I'm not going to go away for 3
All right,
days
now I know where we are.
for half the amount. I will have to, and I have. I've raised my price because I am in such a high tax rate. So it's discouraged me from speaking. That is correct.
There you go.
And
So let me
right.
ask you this. You don't believe with 90% of the policies in California that you're living in.
Correct.
Whoa.
Okay, fair
Right.
enough. So what point does it need to get to? And I'm asking
For me
this-
to leave?
Yeah, what point does it need to get to for you to say,
What's
honey,
that?
I don't know the answer.
Found the
but
power.
I can tell you why I'm staying, which is the logical question.
I had a feeling, I had this
I'm
feeling that I
staying
wonder if there's a
because
ledge down there.
I love.
Yeah,
I have
it's not a ledge,
friends
but there's
here.
this cool thing.
And Friends is the road to happiness. I've written a book on happiness. I do an hour a week of my radio on happiness.
Oh, is there another
I'm
one?
a believer that happiness is a good thing. Happy people do good for the world. So I have all my friends here. I have a community here. I have a
All right,
religious
that's pretty
community
cool.
here. I love the weather, and I love my home, and I love the town that I live in. But it is true that at a certain point, it could get so onerous that I would have to leave.
So Mayor Villagrosa runs for office. He
Yeah.
becomes the governor of the state of California.
Right.
He says we need to go to 74%. Would you
That's
say-
crazy.
No.
Okay. What
That's
would you
insane.
do? Have you thought about
Texas.
That's absolutely
Who would
insane.
welcome you
Where
back?
would you want to move? Washington.
Florida?
74% taxes. That's
Well, I
insane.
don't like the weather anywhere except the West Coast. No. We're blessed.
You really
We're-
are,
we're
though.
totally
Aside
blessed.
from earthquake, this is like perfection.
No,
And by the
no,
way, right now it's
it-
cold.
no,
I
it's
don't remember
awesome.
LA being this cold when I was here
I
for
love it
25
though. I
years.
love that if we get down to 38 degrees, to me, this is like great. But this is the coldest it ever gets. And in the summer, no mosquitoes. I grew up in the East. I know what it's like. No humidity and no
There's 360
mosquitoes.
million
I'll
people in
pay
America.
a
Why do they need to have
penalty in
74%
taxes
tax?
and no mosquitoes and no humidity. That's how I look at it. Yes.
So in order to move Dennis, we got to make sure the taxes in California goes above 70%
That's crazy.
Yeah.
to move you.
Yeah, that would no, not probably. That would do it.
So Mayor Villagrosa, if you're watching this, we would like to encourage you to raise the taxes and run for governor so we can move him to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot easier to do radio and interviews with him because it's going to be closer than LA.
The Democrats don't care if the middle class leaves.
That's crazy.
That they've kicked out the middle class of California. California is now basically the wealthy and the poor.
Yep.
And you,
Middle
and
class
you blame
has
that to
left
who?
on the left.
So let me ask you, is there a likelihood of a true capitalistic Republican governor winning in the state of California next 20 years?
Only if the state goes bankrupt and can't pay its firemen and its police and its teachers, and people understand why. It's because they have done deals with unions that have sucked the money out of the
So
state.
it's got to get to that point
That
for
would
them
be the
to-
only point. That's correct.
That's what it's got to get to.
Yes, but they'll demagogue it and just say, look, the rich are still not paying their fair share. That's what they'll keep saying.
So I had Mayor Masso, who was a mayor of Frisco, and I don't know how much you have data on Frisco and what happened to them, Frisco, Texas. In 1992, this is amazing, Dennis. They had 6,000 people living in Frisco in 1992, okay? Today, they have 172,000 people there. And it's not because they're better at sex than everybody else in America. They attracted a lot of people to their city. And I sat down and I broke it down with them. I said, listen, what did you do? He was a 3-term mayor. What did you do? And he attracted us to move to Texas. He drove us, and we sat with Governor Perry and Nolan Ryan. And these guys are professional recruiters, by the way. And it made sense because logistically, it was easier for me to fly to Florida and New York and LA, everywhere. 3 hours. DFW is a good airport. Love's a good airport. Simple place to be. But he broke down the math. He broke down the math on how it works out, where he was able to bring entrepreneurs and all these other guys to move to Frisco, and this is what they did and all this other stuff. How much of that do you yourself work with and bring people to your audience to actually educate the voters to know that, hey, one of two things, either me needs to run for mayor or run for office and run for governor and have these policies being driven, or two, I need to pay a little bit more attention to who is my mayor, to who vote for my mayor, or who to vote for my congressman or governor, so these things don't continue. How much do you get into brass tacks and a dollar specific amount so we pay attention to those? And do you think that's even something that we ought to be talking about?
Well, of course it's important, but I chose my vehicle as I've often flirted with running for office. I was going to run for the U.S. Senate from California, and I chose not to. And ultimately, I based my choice on my temperament. I have zero interest in having power. I only have interest in having influence. So that's why I do my radio show, PragerU, and my books. It is a statement.
So why wouldn't a statement run for office?
Because, again, to run for office, I couldn't then do a daily radio show. I want to influence people so that they will elect the right people to office. That's the way I decided. I can only do X amount of things as one person. I could do more, I believe, with PragerU and books and lectures and my radio show, a national radio show heard by millions of people, than by being a U.S. senator. I know so.
Maybe not senator, maybe bigger than that.
Yeah,
maybe
only bigger than that. Big president.
So would you have any interest in that?
I would have interest in it.
So you would have interest in it one day too?
If somebody could appoint president rather than having to run, I would like to be appointed.
Okay, well then that's not going to happen.
Correct. That's why I'm not running.
So you have no desire to run?
Correct.
Zero, not even governor?
No, I have a desire, but my mind has overwhelmed my brain. It's sort of like cheesecake.
So are you saying the chances of seeing you run are minimal? 0 to none?
It's minimal.
Do you agree with that? And it's not going to happen? Why wouldn't you do it though? Well, I mean, you guys talk about it. I'm sure other people.
President?
Why wouldn't you make a run at it? And by the way, so here's.
Right.
And by the way, Dennis, this is what I think would happen if you did. Let's just say you made a run at it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you were only in the run for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And one day you said, I'm done. Okay? I don't know. I think, you would bring so much more attention to some of the things to reason with.
I agree with you.
So even if it's not an 18-month run,
yes,
what if you just do it for 6 months?
We thought about that.
So today, I just want everybody to know the reason of he and I meeting together was to strategize on Dennis Prager announcing on this show that he's going to be running for presidency. We got him.
You must have the following items: the pygmy sword, got that. Pygmy armor, got
7
that.
years.
Pygmy shield, and
I
don't have pygmy boots.
So 7 years. Then you have to do math, age, diet, discipline, all those things, because
too many pygmy boots.
Road nonstop.
Okay, now I know what the pygmy things are for.
Nothing's going to change now.
That's right. In that way, nothing would change.
So then, there you have it. I think we just fixed it today.
I'm not sure.
When you go pray tonight,
you're not the first persuasive person to try to persuade me.
I'm not a persuasive.
Yes, right.
Thank God. Because then he would be running 3 years, and you would be in the limelight asking all the Miss Prager. So what do you think about Dennis and what he's? You'd have to answer all those questions.
I did actually. It was a nice sleep.
Okay.
Thanks,
so
Dragon.
Few thoughts here to have some
bartender
fun with,
in person.
And then we'll wrap up and let you go back to what you were doing. Books. Obviously, I think you've read at least more than 5 books in your lifetime. And one of the things about you is, you
the shops are closed.
What book is that, by the way?
Wow.
Yeah, I read that. That's his book.
Yes.
Yeah, I read that book.
Boy, he really did, because to recognize it among
yeah, I
1,000
recognize the
books,
cover. Yeah, I recognize the cover. So
that's an important book.
Okay.
I explain leftism, Islamism, and Americanism.
So here's a question. I'm 21 years old. Okay, I'm watching this. Politically, I'm
At
curious,
last you've come.
but I don't agree with you yet.
I knew you would
Right?
appear before too
I'm
long.
curious. I think
Now you must search for the
you
old
come
axe
across
hidden
as
in
somebody
Iceworld.
that, I don't know if I
To get to
relate
Iceworld,
this.
you'll need this special
What
bracelet.
books you think I ought to read that is going to help me reason things?
It doesn't tell me much, eh? It
And
doesn't
what
tell me like
books
how to
that
get
maybe
to
influence me?
Iceworld. Like, where do I go?
Well, first of all, if you go to DennisPrager.com, that's different from PragerU.com, there actually is a list of the
So,
10 books
okay, so where's the door to Iceworld?
So it's easily found. And I'll mention some if you want, but
Please.
okay, so
Oh no. He wants me to go to
as corny
Iceworld.
as it sounds, and it's a tragedy that it sounds corny, far and away the Bible, and especially the first 5 books, which I'm writing my commentary on, called, which is known as the Torah. That is without question the greatest single influence in my life. I totally resonate to its values. It's brilliant. I'll give you. I gave the example of the necessity of a God to say honor your parents. Otherwise, a lot of people wouldn't. But I'll give you another example. The biblical view is that the human being outside
Do you know where
of God,
Iceworld
the
is?
human being is the most important thing in the world. More important than the environment. More important than animals. More important
Is this
than
Iceworld?
nature.
That looks like a very small
It's
door.
more- We are the center of the world in the biblical worldview. That is laughed at college. It's called the anthropocentric view of the world. They laugh at it. We are nothing. We are absolutely nothing. We are coincidental joinings of molecules, and we think we're important. We're no more important than another animal. People for the ethical treatment of animals is opposed to killing a pig to use its heart valve to save a human being. Who are we to kill a pig to save a human? So that's an example of, whoa, I got a very important value from this book.
Okay, that makes
is in conflict, as it is in so many arenas.
That makes my sword super powerful, I guess.
Okay. What other books? Well, a book that had a permanent impact on me was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, Frankl. This man went through the Holocaust. He was an Austrian psychoanalyst, a Jewish psychoanalyst who was in a Nazi death camp but survived, lost relatives, were murdered by the Nazis. And he explained what has become a very powerful thing in my life since high school. He says the greatest yearning of people, more than sex, so he's differing with Freud, more than sex is meaning. No, and he's, the second I read it, I realized, of course, there are people who have little or no sex and have meaning and who are basically happy. But there are people with a ton of sex who have no meaning, not one of whom is happy. Now, it's best to have sex and meaning, just for the record, for both.
I've got a bracelet. What does a bracelet do?
Frankl was when he said meaning over sex, and how old Freud was. Freud could have been 22 when he said sex.
People who think...
I'm giving you a hard time.
No, I love a hard time. It's a non-issue. People who think beyond their own specific circumstance. Otherwise, we're all doomed. Then no one can think clearly, because that means only our circumstances determine how we think. But that's true for my dog. That shouldn't be
So
true
you're
for
saying
us.
sex and meaning.
At last, you've come. I knew you would
Yes, I am
appear
saying
before
that.
long. Now
But
you must
I'm
search
saying
for the old
first
axe
validation
hidden
right
in
there.
Iceworld.
But yes,
I already gave you the bracelet.
To hear it, I'm glad he came. But what I am saying is...
Oh, hang on.
You taught me
I think. Oh, right.
two things I learned.
I think I remember.
Meaning is number one.
It's ages away though.
Number two. By the way, the left gives people...
It's all the way back at the start.
That it does.
I think I vaguely remember an icy area right at the start of this
But so
game
what? A lot of bad things have given people meaning. The other thing he taught
that I couldn't get past.
there is only one freedom that can never be taken from us. And he learned this in the Nazi concentration camp. The Nazis could do whatever they wanted with a Jew in a concentration camp. Kill him, torture him, rape her, anything. But there was one thing he said they can't do.
So far away, is there a way to teleport?
And that's a very powerful idea. That's my choice. How I react is my choice.
Well, where am I?
Anyway, that's just a second you asked me about.
Give me another one. Give me one more.
Okay, I think that people...
Economically, how about give me one on...
Huh.
I want to study capitalism. Give me
well, there we go.
Anything by Tom Sowell.
This is where we need to be.
Yep. But I really do advocate the book that you read of mine to explain the difference between left thinking, American thinking, and Islamist thinking. Because those are the three competing ideologies in the world today. And that book will be an eye-opener. I worked very, very, very hard.
Oh, it was a great book. Yeah, it was. And by the way, the Sowell book. Thomas Sowell had a book where was it Reasons, where it's like there was like
economics?
75 chapters. No, it's like everything he was making a point. It was 4 points, 5 points, 5 pages, 4 pages. What was that book's name by Thomas Sowell?
No, I wouldn't bother with that.
So would you put him ahead of Friedman? As far as book goes,
I think that to read Friedman. That's a good question. They're both very accessible.
I mean, he was a student of Friedman, though.
Yes.
I mean, in a way.
Yeah, I guess in a way that's true. By the way, I want to make a point about Sowell, which a lot of your viewers won't know. He is black. And if Sowell were not a conservative, he would be the best-known black thinker in America by far. But the media ignore him. He is a luminous mind. But they ignore him because he's not on the left.
He's an absolute genius.
That's right.
Have you seen him go at it with Francis Piven?
No, I didn't, but I pity anybody who debates him.
Oh my gosh. Right. I mean, that is a man that's got a combination of passion and reason together. I mean, that's and he is as brilliant as they get when it comes to Thomas Sowell. Mm-hmm. Have you read any of Cleon Skousen books? 5,000 Year Leap or Naked Communist? And Naked Communist was really interesting, by the way. This guy was a 15-year CIA agent, and he writes a book called 5,000 Year Leap, and he writes a book called The Naked Communist, 25 points that they want to slowly, because you can't go automatically from capitalism to communism. You have to gradually push it through, right? And kind of like the whole idea about putting a frog in a pot and boiling him, you got to gradually do it. He explains 25 points on how to do it. I thought it was a fascinating book, Naked Communist. Remind me to send a copy. We'll send a copy over to Dennis so you can take a look at it. So, Dennis, this has been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
By the way, do you speak Farsi?
I do speak Farsi,
then
yes.
Let me tell you my one line in Farsi.
I want to hear it.
Berim pishe ayatollah dars bkhunim.
Berim
pishe ayatollah dars bkhunim.
So I
tell everybody what I said.
Berim bechune ayatollah.
Let's all go study with the ayatollah.
Yeah, I was going to say, why is he saying that to me?
I decided, I have a very dark sense of humor. So I have so many Persian friends. 30 years ago, I asked one Persian friend, I said, I want one phrase in Farsi. She said, what? How are you? I said, no. If I'm kidnapped by the ayatollah, how are you is not going to save my life.
Wow, I see what you're saying.
But let's all go study with the ayatollah. I have a chance.
6 weeks after Ayatollah died, we escaped Iran and we went to Germany, and I lived at a refugee camp there for 2 years. So Dennis, this has been a blast.
It has been.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to my home.
Thank you so much. And if you haven't watched any of his content on PragerU, just go on YouTube, type in PragerU. It's insanity. You won't be able to watch one. I dare you. Go try watching one. You'll end up watching 6 or 7 of them back to back to back. Again, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you for that.
Yes, definitely.
Who are your 4 Mount Rushmore comedians?
You have to see yourself, what's the greats, to be the great. When did I do Grown Little Man? That was when I was at my brokest point, when I did Grown Little Man. Keep your circle tight. Make sure that's a bubble that can't be popped.
I gotta remember where
these people are, grow with those people. You guys should understand each other inside and out.
It's not here.
This was a good time. This was honestly a good time.
So there are a lot of great comedians out there, many of them that I like. I
can't remember where it is.
There's only
it's
one
right at the
that
start
has
somewhere.
Nearly 150 million people following him on social media. Okay.
Is it here?
And by the way, only a handful of
Is it here?
countries have 150 million
Maybe it is.
population. This man could be a country by himself. Only guy in the comedy world that's filled up football stadiums. Football stadiums. We've heard, basketball and stuff, but football stadiums. And Forbes 2016 earnings, I think it's 87.5 million. Some other number is 69 million, I think 2017. And he says recently in a podcast, I think on Variety, that he wants to be a business mogul. He already is a business. His name is a business already. But he wants to be a billionaire by 45 years old. Kevin, brother,
How
good
are
to be
you,
with
man?
you here today.
How you doing? Great intro.
I'm doing very good.
Ignore the financial numbers.
You can tweet him for a loan at Kevin Hart, and he will not reply, by the way, just so you know, disclaimer. Okay, so Kevin, first of all, we're excited about having you in August in Vegas. That's going to be a blast.
I can't wait, man.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Wait.
I got a lot of questions to get into. Some part of it's going to be business, some it's going to be comedy, some's going to be personal life and how you discipline yourself. But let's start off with the first one. When did you know you were funny?
When did I know it was funny?
When did you know you were funny?
For real funny. At my banquet for my swim team. I swim for a team called PDR, Philadelphia Department of Recreation.
You were a swimmer.
I was a swimmer. Till this day, I'm an amazing swimmer.
Really?
I am, but I didn't like it because my mom made me do it. That was her way to keep me off the streets. So swimming takes up all your time. You got practice before school, long practice after school. You're
and the
too tired.
practice, you are beat afterwards. You're
too
sleeping.
Tired. Too tired to want to do anything. So I was pretty much an underachiever because I did whatever I had to do just to get by in swimming. So at our banquet, all of the people on the swim team were getting amazing awards, scholarships.
Is it under here?
Just unbelievable what these people accomplish in the sport of swimming. And I think I got like a participant award, which was nothing. Which was like,
how old are you at this time?
This is 16. This is 16, yeah. This is my last year. So my class, like my swim class, they're all going off to college. Everybody's excited. Oh my God. USC, University of Maryland, Villanova, Penn State, name it. They're going everywhere.
Oh, I can't remember.
I got a participant in
Is it here?
And we all had to give speeches. And I just gave a speech.
Oh, is it up here somewhere?
On being an underachiever.
Oh, I can't remember where it is.
Just how I know I'm not good, and you guys don't have to just give me fake pats on the back when you leave. You all know that I'm not at the level of everybody else, but I did it with such a sense of humor where the room was dying.
How big's the audience?
Oh man, it may have been 70 people.
Come on, Priscilla, let's go. Oh, I think I know where it is.
And without realizing,
I think I know where it is.
It was like a comedy set. I had a beginning, middle, and end to a speech that I didn't even write down. I was just personable. I got up and talked and winged it. And when I got off, people were clapping. And after the banquet, everybody was just saying the same thing. Your son is so funny. He's so funny. He's so personable. We love him. We're gonna miss you. But the word personable, the word funny was used so much. And I think that's the day when it really clicked. I've always been funny, but that's the day when it really clicked.
That this could actually be your entertaining guy.
Well, it wasn't, this is going to be my career of choice, because I didn't know at the time.
Oh, so this isn't a dream. So you are not grown, I'm going to grow up and one day, I'm watching all these other guys.
No, I wish I could sit here and lie to you and say that was the case. I'm a late bloomer in understanding what hard work brings.
To be fair, Priscilla does bugger all.
My throat, and because of the way she did it, I didn't want to comprehend it. When I had no choice but to understand it, I got lucky by having something I love to put along the same lines with the message that she was giving.
Got it.
School wasn't what I wanted to do.
I think it's through here.
I never got my all.
So who were you in high school? If I'm in high school with you, who's Kevin Hart in high school?
Funniest guy in school.
Oh no, I have to remember the.
Funniest guy. Class.
Is that through here?
Most popular kid in school.
How big's the school?
I went to a big school. I went to school, George Washington High School, Northeast, huge school. I liked the fact that it was diverse. Where I grew up in Philadelphia, we didn't have other races of people around us. It was blacks in my neighborhood. Black
I don't
people.
even have the ocarina anymore.
Tracks, I think we had some Puerto Rican people that we
Maybe it's not through here.
with, but it was a minority-driven neighborhood, going to the Northeast, my first time really interacting with white people on a regular basis.
This is the first time?
In high school. She sent me out there for middle school too, so my last years of middle school and high school.
Was it 9 through 12? Was it 10 through 12?
It was 9 through 12, but I went to middle school 7th and 8th.
Got it.
But what that did, it helped me become the people person that I am today. I was always a guy that was in a mixture of races.
Wow, that's so amazing you're saying that.
It's the truth.
Yeah, it was
amazing. So
that's one thing that I really appreciate that my mom did.
The fact that she put you in an environment like this. So I grew up in Glendale. If you've been to Glendale, it's 90% Armenian. They're all Middle Eastern. You go, everybody there's Middle Eastern.
Yes.
So I go to the Army. When I go into the Army and I go to Kentucky, no one's Middle Eastern.
Nobody.
I had to learn very quickly how to work with different. That kind of helps you in business. Obviously, this has helped you with your career because
100%.
your audience is very diverse. You talk about your mom. You reference her a lot.
A lot.
You give her a lot of credit for what she's done and how we raised you, all these other things. What were some things your mom did to you specifically that helped you become who you are today?
My mom was very hard on me. And the reason why is because I think she saw the mistakes that she made with my brother. My brother was he was a loose cannon. My brother, he didn't have a tight leash on him. He'd come and go as he pleased. Curfew was later. And because of that, she saw the road that he went down. My brother went down a very bad road. Getting locked up at a young age, selling drugs.
What's the age difference?
Me and my brother 8 years apart.
Got it.
8 years apart. And with me, I think it was more of a panic of I'm not going to allow this to happen again.
And it's typically the other way around, by the way. Typically, parents are easier on the younger than they are on the older.
And I've heard that. I've definitely heard that, but in my case, it was not. I had to be home at 6 o'clock. I mean, I rarely saw nighttime in my teenage years, and especially with being outside amongst friends, it was always doing something constructive.
Well, I've been here before.
So she never let me waste time.
I'm trying to remember.
That time was either spent during practice, studying, or preparing for something that was to come. My downtime came on a weekend where everything else was done, and my Saturday was spent watching cartoons, or I was in the gym with her while she was at the gym working out.
What were your cartoons, by the way? Just a side note, just curious to know what you watched.
I was a big Bugs Bunny guy. Heavy Tom and Jerry.
Heavy Tom and Jerry.
Heavy.
That's old school, though.
Flintstones.
Wow.
Well, I'm getting older. I'm 38 now. So
we're a year apart.
My stuff is back there.
Yeah. Tom and Jerry, Flintstones.
Those are my pick supports.
Cool. Sounds good. So now mom's disciplined. She's keeping you positively distracted, all the positive distractions in your life. And then later on when you're getting to a point when you're kind of figuring out, because your story with your mom is a complete opposite story with your father, right? Can you talk a little bit about your experience with your dad?
We got two different roads. Can I make it right or left? I had a choice to make a left at one point in time in my life. My mom and my dad were together, didn't stay together, didn't work out. My dad was a loose cannon, on drugs, off drugs, in jail, out of jail.
You witnessed all of this.
I didn't know.
Got it.
I was younger, so the secret was kept from me. But everybody else except me knew.
Your older brother knew.
My older brother knew.
8 years.
Everybody else knew. When you're blind to the reality of what your environment is, sometimes people let you touch a hot stove so you can go, ooh, that's hot. So my mom at one point were like, you know what? Go with your father. You're always saying that you want to go with your dad, go. And I got an opportunity to go with my dad. And this isn't to say that my dad, didn't care about me.
Because you were yearning. You were curious.
I wanted to go. I'm out of here. You strict. You don't let me do nothing. I'm going to go with dad. My dad, the complete opposite.
How old were you at that time when you were saying this to mom?
I'm probably 12.
So that young,
11,
mom
12.
says go to dad.
Well, at this point, she wanted to prove a point. Go.
Good for her for having the emotion.
Go. You want to do it? Go.
Wow.
Because my brother was in the Army at the time, so it's just me and my mom. So we butting heads, We're butting. I'm actually 13, 14, because my brother was in the Army. We're just at it every day. And my thing was, you're not getting me. You're not letting me grow up. Let me go with dad. My dad was the complete opposite. My dad didn't have no rules. Go, what you want to go? I'll see you when you get back. Go. Dad, my friend's going, go ahead. You don't ask no questions or nothing.
It was definitely not back at the start somewhere. It was right at the beginning of the game.
It's not
I remember an icy area right at the beginning of the game.
I
I can't remember where I went to go to.
There's some kind of guidance around here, right? Like No rules at all, Dad? Do it, man. Go ahead. Hey, don't forget you got school. What?
Where is it?
It was that level of comfort. It was that level of, I guess, not understanding the real role of a parent at that time. And he had a lot of stuff going on. And that's when I had to make the conscious decision to say, Mom, I was wrong. I want to come back. And to come back, it was understanding that you're going to go through my rules and it's going to be my way.
Even higher standards.
It's something I had to deal with, but I had to make that decision to say, okay, I had to eat that humble pie.
How long did you live with your pops during that time?
Man, it may have lasted 3 days. 3 days. 3 days. I was back home. 3 days. I'm not dealing with this shit. I got to go. I got to go, man. I got to go. Too many people in the house. I don't know none of these people. People coming in and out just wasn't.
Wow.
It wasn't what I was used to. It wasn't my comfort zone.
So then you come back and then you obviously your mom
through
sets
here.
the expectation you have to respond to.
I absolutely can't remember.
Okay, so now let's fast forward. I
cannot remember.
School. You're out of school. You're not in high school anymore. I think you had a stint selling shoes. Were you a salesman?
Shoe salesman.
I can see you being a ridiculous.
Is it with this guy?
Shoe
Tell you
salesman.
what
Maybe it
going
is.
on, man. Break a shoe down. What you got?
Now you were selling
Super
Nike or were you selling ladies' shoes or were you
Sneakers.
Sneakers.
City Sports Philadelphia. Subinate and Pronate. Want to shoot polyurethane, condensed EVA?
Wow.
What's your foot?
How long did you
4
sell?
foot? What kind of protection you need in your foot?
All
I
of
can
it.
tell you anything. Name it. I can tell you anything.
How long did you sell for?
I was at City Sports for about 2 years.
Got it. So it's a good enough time. I mean,
Year and a half, 2 years.
Got it.
Yeah.
So when did you? So when you gave that one message, 70 kids are in the room, 70 people are in the room. Oh my gosh, your kid's so funny.
I don't think it's
they're
this
saying
way.
that your mom and your peers are around. All these other guys are getting the scholarships. You're getting participation awards. Maybe I can go make people
It
laugh.
might
Did
be the other
somebody
way.
tell you, Kevin, why don't you go give comedy a shot? You know, or was it mom, or did you say, you know what, I'm gonna go do stand-up comedy?
It wasn't my mom. It was somebody from my job where I worked at City Sports. Somebody was like, yo, man, you have us laughing every day. Like, literally, every day at work is a fun day because of you. You come here, you just delivering jokes nonstop. Why don't you do comedy? Because where we worked at, there was a comedy club around the corner called the Laugh House.
Do you still keep in contact with that person that told you? Or
No, from work, no. But we were good friends. It's Allison. If I seen her, it would be like I never stopped seeing her. We would pick up right where we left off. I mean, those were all great relationships.
It's amazing
through here.
that somebody that's not in your life gives you that.
Yeah, you just because you lose contact it doesn't mean you lost contact.
Yeah.
You know, you can see a person and pick up right where you left off. Those relationships that I had at that job, it was that. Those people definitely help with the push. They help with the jump start to me understanding how to go about doing comedy. It's
And you
something
were
that was a
19,
thought.
20 at the time?
18, 19. It was a thought. I just didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to go. So when somebody said comedy club, yeah, I want to go. Yeah, I'm right. All right, let's do it. It wasn't even a fight. I just didn't know it existed. I didn't know.
And it was a comedy
how to-
club down the street from you.
It was right around the corner.
So the barber that cuts my hair, I'm gonna tell you what he tells me. So I said, listen, he's cut my hair 2 days ago. I said, Michael, I'm gonna be with Kevin Hart. He says, no. I said, yeah, Michael Rapatoni. Michael, if you're watching this, I'm giving you a shout out right now. Michael Rapatoni is
it's
one
somewhere
of
in
these
here.
guys that was a former boxer with enough story. There's a reason why he's a barber.
There's
He's
the
got
best.
great stories.
The
right?
best stories ever.
And
It
he's
is-
not
it
in
is somewhere in
45
here.
minutes. It's not one of those 5 minutes. He's just talking to the entire time. So he says, you know, I'm from Philadelphia. I said, I know you're from Philadelphia, but what does that have to do with Kevin? I know Kevin's also Philadelphia. He says, Pat, there was a time that Kevin used to go to this club called Helium. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know Helium.
Yeah.
He says he
It's a
would go
comedy
to
club.
Helium and they had amateur night in the late 90s. He says, what I was blown away by Kevin on amateur night at Helium is he kicked everybody's tail, and every night, because he would go watch you every single night, he said every night he would bring something new. You would say, how does he come up with all this stuff? Is
He's
what he was telling
talking
me.
about, so I'm gonna tell you exactly what he's doing, and there's a high level of truth to it. Helium Comedy Club is a comedy club in Philadelphia, but he's referring to the Laugh House. Helium Comedy Club came after the Laugh House was like going through their problems. Helium Comedy Club came, and they just, an amazing comedy club, ran professionally, just gave a new look to comedy in Philadelphia. But what he's talking about with the amateur nights, every week, the amateur nights were held on Thursday.
At Helium, or this
at,
is Laugh?
at the Laugh House.
Got it.
But the winner got $75. I won the competition for about 6 to 8 weeks. I was
That's what he was saying.
I was winning the competition. It was all amateurs.
No,
and I
it's
was
not
winning,
there.
But the reason why, I would make sure after each one, I said I don't want
Is
to
it
go
through
back
here?
and say the same stuff. So the week leading up to it would be me trying to create whatever my new jokes were. And of course, it's the beginning, so they're green, they're hacky jokes. It's nothing great. It's no brilliant material. But my energy used to be nuts. I would
No, I
come
don't
on
think it's
stage
through here
and
either.
run.
I think it's somewhere around
I
here,
would
but
run.
it's not
I
here.
would run from the back. I remember they would. Kev, my name was Lil Kev the Bastard.
Yeah.
And they would say, "Give it up for Little Kev the Bastard." And I would just run through the doors and I would grab the stool and what's up, man? I was talking a mile a minute.
Through here, maybe?
Because I was so pumped up. But at the time, I wasn't Kevin Hart. I wasn't
Right.
being myself. I was being a version of what I thought I should be to get laughs. And that version of me was getting laughs, but it was a character. So it wasn't until I started to figure out that I didn't have to be a character
Yeah, I think it is through
that I
here.
got really funny. I was situational funny. You ever bump your foot, and after you bump your foot, grab it, and you go, "Man, I can't stand this now, look at my foot." It was, you ever see the way you look at your hand when you wipe your butt? It was stupid stuff. It was nothing crazy, it was stupid stuff. You ever drink and when you drink something, you fall and you look at your lip, and you like, "Bud, look at my lip." Those were the jokes. It was like, what? But my energy was so,
is what gave it
the
away.
energy was so crazy.
He says, Pat, here's the only thing. One day I show up. He says, I was such a loyal face. One day I show up, how come he's not here anymore? He says, then I found out he was so good that he got the attention of people in New York, apparently.
Yeah.
He says he started going to New
Through
York.
here, maybe.
He's very well versed.
So
Yes.
he followed it very closely.
And the crazy thing is, I got out of Philadelphia because I was seeing the same people.
Your reach wasn't a big reach.
I was like, well, it's not that. I was seeing the same people, the same comedians, the same audience people every week.
Wouldn't you see the same if you went somewhere else, though?
But that's the thing, I didn't know.
Got it.
I wasn't content with not knowing. I was like, it has to be more. What's the next?
Kevin, is this late 90s?
This is late 90s.
So you're 21, 20,
Yeah.
21, 22
this
years
is
old.
This is late 90s.
Oh my
This is-
God.
This is
I
98,
can't remember.
99.
Yeah.
And I met a guy named Keith Robinson who's an unbelievable mentor to me. And this is the guy who was telling me just like, man, you got to start talking about more. You got to start talking about yourself. He said, I want you to come with me to New York. I didn't know the guy from this piece of paper on the table, but we said, you got to come with me to New York. I jumped at it because I was like, is more comedy in New York? I'm going. I want to see it. I was so eager to see what else was out there. And when I saw that, when he opened up that door and I got to look behind it and I saw what was there, 12, 13 comedy clubs in New York. I got to see comedians on stage, all races.
Well, New York is New York.
Oh my God, all races, shapes, sizes. I got big. I got big.
Was that it?
That was when it was over. That was the addiction at the highest level. When I saw
When he
that,
took you the first time you went up on stage in New
when
York?
he took me, I didn't even go on stage. I just saw.
Which one? What club was it? The first one in
Comedy
New York
Cellar.
you went
He
to?
took me to the Comedy Cellar.
And who did you hear? Do you remember the names of
I'll
people?
tell you exactly who I saw and who walked in, and I was mind blown. Jerry Seinfeld and Ray Romano came on the same night.
Wow.
And I was like, you know, this is when their TV shows were at the height of their shows. Colin Quinn, George Wallace was there. This is Patrice O'Neill in his prime. This is Rich Voss in his prime. Bill Burr. This is Tracy Morgan in his prime. Young Chris Rock. This is, when I tell you, this is me, because the Cellar, you got to think, this is when SNL was real big for a lot of these guys, and they were going back and forth. Colin Quinn had Weekend Update. This is where they would go. This is where everybody was honing their material. So before I got on stage, I was sitting in the comedy club and just watching the greats. Damon Wayans came in one night and had a piece of paper and was just working on some material.
Gods during that time.
And I'm literally just looking. Nobody knew me. I'm the dirty kid.
Nobody
in the back.
knows you.
No, I'm a little dirty kid that nobody knows what he does. But Keith Robinson took a liking to me and he was educating me.
Did Keith know all those guys?
Keith was it. Keith is a comedy legend. Wanda Sykes, myself, Rock, we all are students of the Keith Robinson camp. I mean, there's so many comedians that he helped breed and mold into what they are today. and my understanding for comedy and the way that jokes should be told, the way the story should be vetted out, the way that the set has a beginning, middle, and end when it comes to Keith.
He gave you the system.
He 100%
Would he sit there with you and say, Kevin, here's how you come up with a joke?
Absolutely not.
He wouldn't. So
No.
that part's on you.
No, do your work, dummy. That's what you say. That's your
Got it.
job. I'm telling you what you're not doing.
Got
It's
it.
my job to tell you what you're not doing. It's your job to figure out how to do it. So I would get off stage. This is what he did to me one night. This is the best lesson he ever gave. On stage, and I killed. You ever see? You ever get up on a bus and king, king, king? It's a bunch of that. Just a bunch of nonsense. Hey, you ever look at somebody and be like, what? It's nothing. He says, I want you to see something. I stand next to him, and like 5 people are walking out. And he says, do you enjoy the show? And they're like, yeah. And like, you were so funny. And he says, what's his name? What about you? You know his name? Oh, wait, you were the third
He's
guy.
not doing
You were
this.
number 4. You were 4. You were number 4. Nobody knew my name. He said, you know why they don't know your name? You don't say who you are. He said, do you have kids? Do you not have kids? You got a mother, a father, a brother, a sister?
Tell a story.
Who are you?
Wow.
He says, nobody knows anything about you. All they know is that you were funny. Everybody that comes through here is funny. Only the special ones make it much further than this because people feel like they know them. They invest in them in their careers. So then he started making me watch the greats. When you start to watch the quote-unquote greats,
Live.
they talk about themselves.
All right, what do I
Like
do?
they're talking about
Is it not?
themselves, their
I'm sure it's
experiences,
around here
their
somewhere.
opinion,
'Cause I remember those
their
little
feeling
bloody
effects
ghosts.
From said thing 1, 2, or 3.
Yep. How immediately did you make your adjustment?
Well, it wasn't fast. You tried, but then you struggle. You struggle with the change because I'm so comfortable with my.
Style.
You ever see? Don't you hate when? Man, I can't stand. Black people do this, but white people do this. I'm so comfortable doing that. As soon as I had to change it and start saying, "Hey, I'm Kevin Hart," I'm not confident in Kevin Hart because I don't think Kevin Hart's funny. I think this guy with all this energy is funny. It was a mental thing. So I had to tap out of that and tap into the real me and put the character to the side.
How soon did you get up and perform yourself after that? So he takes
I was
you up
going
there.
back and forth to New York for about 7 months to a year before I got on stage in New York.
You're kidding me.
No.
So
100%.
7 months to a year, you're
Going
only
up.
performing at the Helium
I'm doing
and
there and a couple little spots in New York. There's a couple little
Nothing big
spots.
yet.
Nothing big. Nothing big.
And during this time, have you built any relationship with
The
any of these
comedians
guys?
now
Tracy?
know me. They all know me, and everybody's cordial and nice to me. And that the reason for going back and forth from Philadelphia to New York,
Yep.
I had to make them think I lived in New York. That's the only way you're going to get spots. They have to be able to rely on you and think that you're going to make the time.
So the first time you got it, when was it and what was it?
First time I got
Where
on
was it?
stage, I got an audition. I got my first one at Caroline's, and I got over. It was like, I say like 8 months probably I was going up there. Past Caroline's, Caroline started booking me a couple spots during the week. They don't pay. They give you food, like they call food spots, until you become a weekend comedian. Then you get like $50 a spot in New York. The Comedy Cellar, then that got up there, and the Comedy Cellar passed me food spots again. Stand Up New York, I think give you like $5 a spot. Weekends the same, $25 to $50. But it was a slow grind. But then when you get in all of them, you got to think in New York you're doing 7 to 8 spots on a weekend. So if you're getting $50 a spot and you're doing 6 to 7 to 8 spots
it.
on
So you're making
Friday,
$300 to $400
Saturday,
bucks.
Sunday, you got a good weekend. You figure it's 4 weekends in a month, you can pull $2,000, $2,500 in New York, and you can survive. You can support yourself. And during the week, the goal would be to book colleges or other shows elsewhere, and then come and do that
Colleges?
on the weekend. Colleges.
You were performing at colleges.
Performing at colleges, man. Had a
What-
college agent. That's how I was staying afloat. My college agent is here in Chicago, Bass Schuler Entertainment.
So when you say college, like college, am I going to the auditorium and performing in the auditorium? or-
Colleges, wherever they put you. Sometimes you'll be in an auditorium, sometimes you'll be in a lunchroom, sometimes you'll be in like a created atmosphere. It could be like their lounge space, and They just put a microphone there.
Wow.
Colleges have a certain amount of money that they have to spend a year on entertainment. So that goes to music and comedians or whatever.
You know, one of the things we forget about is there is no social media at the time.
No.
So you have to go hustle to get up. Nowadays, somebody can put up one video, 60 million views, everybody knows it.
Here's my headshot. That's my number.
That's the hustle.
And here's my tape.
Wow.
My number's in there if you want to call. That's my tape. Please watch the tape.
So who's the first name that saw you perform that said, dude, you're the real deal? Like, who was the first person that came and said, this guy's somebody?
Dave Attell. Dave Attell, smart comedian, very funny. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. If you're not, educate yourself on Dave Chappelle. You would love him.
Chappelle?
Dave Attell.
Attell. Okay.
Very, very funny guy. He had a show on Comedy Central called Insomniacs for a long time.
Okay.
He saw me perform and was blown away by my performance. And he called his manager, who is Dave Becky, who is now my manager, and said, you got to see this guy. Dave Becky reached out to me, came to see me, and in coming to see me, expressed that he would love to work with me. He was a manager. He deals with some of the biggest and best names in the business today. But he said, look, he doesn't do the contracts and try to have people sign their life away. He works on a handshake basis. He said, if you're willing to work, I'm willing to help you. Told him I was willing to work. He said he was willing to help, shook hands. He came, watched me perform, put me in other comedy clubs, got me in other spots. I started to get better, sharper, faster, and I got into what's called the Montreal Comedy Festival, and he made me turn it down. He was like, we're not ready. He said, they want you to go, your new face, and it'll be great, but if we wait one more year, we'll go and we'll be the talk of the town. Trust me, let's wait. I said, I'm going to listen to you, my manager. Everything this man has said has never not worked. And because of that, he's been my manager for 15, 16 plus years.
Wow. Till today.
So Dave Attell gets the nod of the discovery of, oh my God, this guy's great.
Handshake.
Come here, come meet this guy.
Game
Handshake,
over.
Yep.
So first big hit. What's the first big hit for you?